First up today, we have the report on the ks.gov budget. I want you to note that there's some answers to questions that were submitted yesterday on an email from Merle. With that, we're ready to look on the report. Committee, are there any recommendations to be added to the report? Any discussion? Senator Reddy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a recommendation and a request. So yesterday when we were looking at a couple of days, we were looking at the budget, I was concerned about the 4.2 million decrease in motor vehicle tax or gas tax to our city and county for the special city and county highway funds. And I would like for this committee to consider adding 4.2 million from the state general fund to the special city and alcohol fund as an aid to for units of government for FY 2024, and this adjustment would reverse a decreased revenue estimate provided by the Highway Revenue Estimating Group. And Merle has the statement that I'm requesting or applying to this. So I would like to have that discussion and see where this committee would, excuse me, what this committee thinks about it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Committee, do we have a second on the motion? I take that as a motion.
Yes.
Seconded by Senator Schallenberger. Any discussion? Senator Dietrich.
Sorry, it's early. I forgot to say thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess my question is, why was it reduced? Do we know that? I don't remember that discussion yesterday. What was the reasoning behind the reduction? Does somebody from the agency or somebody answer that?
Merle.
Or Merle?
Mr. Chairman, the agency does provide, I believe, a little bit of response to that. Not on this one, but in previous years, that reduction is based on the Highway Revenue Estimating Group. So that group meets in from September to January to look at projections of fuel usage or sort of consumer behaviors, and their estimation that revenue from motor fuel tax would decrease for FY24 by 4.2 million below previous estimates. So what they're saying is they are estimating that the revenue simply won't be there. But again, that's a revenue that's provided, or I'm sorry, an estimate that is projected.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
And sorry, Mr. Chair, sorry about that. I also wanted to say that I don't know how often the gas tax has been increased, and I don't foresee it increasing in the long term. At the same time, whether it's fuel efficiency, cars are more efficient, or whatever it might be, it's impacting our local communities because of the decrease. So that was and I have a spreadsheet from my own county how it's been decreasing. Thank you, Mr.
Committee further discussion? Senator Schallenberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the senator offering this. I've been contemplating something all along. You'll hear this a lot maybe in the next year, but I just was the mayor of Baxter Springs, and our special highway fund, which is the money this comes from, is basically all we have to pave roads. When you have 200 city blocks of road and you get $100,000 a year, that doesn't get you very far. And so we've watched over the years the gas tax dwindle, and that's all that we get. So that's why I seconded the motion, and I think we probably ought to look at a long-range plan, because if cities can't get this money, their alternative is property tax, and we know how popular that is. But we do have to maintain roads, so thank you.
Committee, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adding this to our recommendation to the full committee signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The recommendation is adopted. Committee, I have a recommendation. I actually have two of them. I'll do them individually. I would like to recommend the Senate Committee on Ways and Means consider additional funding for the Kansas Airport Improvement Program due to the large demand in recent years. And I'll make that as a motion. seconded by Senator Corson. Committee, we heard they had large number of requests, a lot of dollars being requested. It's helped our rural airports immensely. Right now, it'd be a good time to add some additional funds to that. The need is out there for sure. And that's why I'm adding that into 2023. Or requesting that. Committee, further discussion. Senator Schallenberger.
Is there an amount associated with this, or was it?
I'm just asking the full committee to look. I didn't put an amount.
All right, thank you.
Senator Reddy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur. I believe we have an airport as well, and I know Salina as well as in our surrounding communities. And while federal funds are important, there's always a match that we have to provide from our communities, and it's usually extraordinarily high. So I think it's in the best interest for the state of Kansas to have some state funds go towards our airports as well. And it's just good commerce and good economic development. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Committee, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the recommendation signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Recommendation is adopted. Committee, I have another recommendation. I would like to ask that the Senate Ways and Means review the program supported with the Technology Development Fund. We heard that some of these funds weren't expended and that the agency is starting to develop new ways to help promote that. I'd like the full committee to take a look at that, see if there's anything they can do to help. Is there a second on that recommendation? Seconded by Senator Dietrich. Further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the recommendation signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Recommendation is adopted. Are there further recommendations? Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not recommendation, but discussion. Would a question be in order?
Appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would ask for the department to take a look from 2018 to 2022. They've had 100% increase in expenditures. And I would ask if that trajectory is planned to continue, especially at that pace, or what the department is thinking in those terms.
As requested the department to provide the information back to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just for the committee's information, we're looking at $1 billion increase in 5 years. Thank you.
That's just a request of the department, not a request. Okay. Excellent. I think they heard you. They're writing. Very good. Are there further recommendations for the report? Seeing none, I'm looking for a recommendation that the committee concur with the governor's recommendation in fiscal year 2023 with the following adjustments. Recommend that the Senate Committee on Ways and Means consider additional funding for Kansas Airport Improvement Program due to the large demand in recent years. Recommend the Committee on Ways and Means review programs supported with the Transportation Technology Development Fund. Fiscal year 2024, I had another one here. Hang on a second. I got it. Also in fiscal year 2024, add $4.2 million from the Special City and County Highway Fund as aid to local units of government for fiscal year 2024. This adjustment would reverse the decrease in revenue estimates provided by the Highway Revenue Estimating Group. Recommend that do we have a motion for that recommendation? Moved by Senator Corson, seconded by Senator Reddy. Further discussion. Senator Reddy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe the 4.2 million, I was suggesting from the State General Fund. Is that what was stated?
Add 4.2, all from the special and city. I was just reading the one that you handed, that was handed
Oh,
out in
okay.
writing.
Okay, I think there was a, sorry, that was, it was supposed to say from the State General Fund.
We can make that correction, Merle.
Mr. Chairman, we can make that change. I would note generally there is some issues of state general funds being used to build highways. I think there are some elements to the Constitution that may prohibit those use, but I would have to investigate further. I'm getting a no. Ignore what I just said.
Is there a motion to recommend that the committee concur with the government? We had that. We had discussion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of sending these recommendations to the full committee, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? It's adopted. The recommendations are going to the full committee. Thank you, committee. It's the first time I've done a budget in here, so I'm new at this, so I think we did some good work. Committee will now turn our attention to Senate Bill 130. Adam, you want to give us a briefing?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 130 would require the division of vehicles to either print on the license plate or issue a decal to affix to the license plate the county of registration of the motor vehicle. And this will apply to the following vehicles: a passenger vehicle or truck that is subject to motor vehicle personal property taxation, or any vehicle that displays a distinctive or personalized license plate. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Committee questions for Adam. Senator Corson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just clarification. So in practice, though, all of our regular plates that are issued now, folks get the decal that goes on the top left that has the county insignia. So am I right that in practice this only affects the specialized plates because those are the ones that don't have the county identifier at present? Thank you.
I believe that's pretty much accurate. I'm not you're right. You know, I have a standard plate. It has the county. I think most of them are the newer, distinctive and personalized plates that don't always have the county on the top left corner. Sometimes they're the insignias for those specialized plates, you know, may have to be redesigned. But yeah, I think the majority of them are those specialized or distinctive plates that would have to conform to this new provision.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Further questions for Adam? Committee, you might note, it looks like the Department of Revenue has provided us a book with all the license plates in it for you to look at. I'd like to thank them for that. Turn our attention to proponents. First up, Senator Tyson. You can do it from your chair if you would like. Doesn't bother me.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having the hearing this morning. I will not say this is a simple bill, but I will say that it is a short bill. And what I am asking for, and I have had constituents ask me for this, is that we put the county recognition on license plates. There's a couple of things that this will help with. It'll help with law enforcement more accurately identifying the vehicle and the ownership of the vehicle. And we see this as an issue with the Kansas Turnpike Authority as one thing. In fact, former Representative Gene Vickery, I just ran into him in the hall and said I was coming up to testify on this. And he says, that's wonderful. I had a constituent who fought this because he got tickets from the Turnpike Authority, and it wasn't him on the Turnpike, it was someone else. So this would help alleviate or diminish, maybe not alleviate, but diminish that issue. Also, in rural Kansas, it's very noticeable for us if we get an out-of-county plate. And that may not seem like much with you guys, but during deer season, it's a big issue. We get several poachers down there, and it would help more easily identify individuals in the region or not in that area. So the main issue is identification, and especially for law enforcement. And so I would ask your consideration of the bill and hope that you would support it. And I'll stand for questions, Mr. Chairman.
Committee questions? Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm not sure who to direct the question to. It's about the fiscal note.
Out there and we'll figure it out.
Okay, the question is, I appreciate the book from the Department of Revenue with the pictures of the digital license plates, and I do see that to accommodate a county decal or county identification, a lot of these would have to be reformatted, if you will, and the fiscal note is $20,750 to change approximately the 83 license plate designs. Is that kind of the information that, I guess that's the information we have, about $21,000 to change all these. So that was my question, just a little bit of clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Revenue, do you want to add anything on that, or?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Leanne Phelps. I'm the Vehicle Services Manager for the Division of Vehicles. We would have to work with our vendor that prints the plates, so it would be somewhat of an impact to them. That was not included in the fiscal note, but also just time and effort contacting sponsors or, the plate sponsors and working with them to make it an acceptable design.
Thank you. If I may have a follow-up question. So the fiscal note is expected to be higher than the one that we have in our committee documents of about $21,000?
That's the Department of Revenue's estimate for our time and effort. I did reach out to the vendor and was not able to find out from them what their effort would be and didn't know if that should have been included, but their effort is not included in that.
If I would suggest that the committee obtain that information somehow, or if you could
reach back out,
if that would be appropriate.
And it is still sent as a digital file to the vendor, and the vendor just prints it, so there shouldn't be a lot of cost to the vendor.
Doesn't sound like a lot, so.
It would be just them. They have a program called Plate Builder, and they have to use vector files to build layers of the plate to print. So the plates that, if you look in the book, maybe the last page, I think, is Love Chloe plate. You can see that the design kind of loops up into that upper left corner where we would put the county indicator. So that would have to be reduced, redesigned, just manipulated.
Adjusting the digital file, so it wouldn't be a huge expense, doesn't sound like.
I wouldn't think, but I don't know.
Thank you for the.
But I can get an estimate for you.
That'd be great, it'd be helpful to know.
I was looking at some of the Space Force and some of the Marine plates, the military plates.
It would be complete redesigns because the emblem for the military branch is right up in that corner.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you, Leanne.
Thank you.
Further questions? Senator Corson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Probably not a question for the senator, but I'm confused on why we're issuing duplicate plates, because it doesn't seem like our population is large enough that we would have to issue duplicate plates. So that doesn't really get to the underlying bill is more about the identification, but can you talk about what, if you know, why duplicate plates are being issued in the first instance?
Because of the numbering system. Well, I'll let the experts speak to it, but I would also throw in, Mr. Chairman, if I may, it's optional for a decal also.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. So the duplicate plate numbering system started decades ago, and I think it probably began when we had a pretty limited number of distinctive plates. The standard plates do not duplicate today. They never have. It's the distinctive plates where you find the duplication. One of the most common ones that we find are an issue like turnpike, highways, other states tolling agencies. It's the antique plate number, which is a permanent registration, so that number never changes, it never goes away out of our system, and commercial plates. So I have worked with our, internally with our agency and our IT. We've come up with a plan to discontinue any kind of duplication. We plan to put that in place to begin in January of 2024.
Okay, thank you. 'Cause that was sort of my follow-up was, don't you think it would be a good practice to sort of phase that out?
Yes.
So, okay, thank you.
Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick question about why we don't put county designations on these plates, on these distinctive plates. When did that start, and why was that decision made, I guess is my question.
I'm not sure I have the answer to that. I'm
For
sorry.
you?
Probably before me.
Long time?
Yeah.
Not that you've been
Been
there
there
long.
16 years. I can't answer that question.
Well, I appreciate this bill because I have always felt that we needed to have that county designation on these plates, and for all the reasons that Senator Tyson mentioned. So I think a $20,000 expense is probably well worth it, but I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking at the bill, there's nothing that requires, as of January 1, 2024, when new registrations are sent or renewal registrations, that a decal sticker be sent to those who already have the specialized plates. So are they grandfathered in with this bill, or are we going to be, should this bill become law, are we going to be sending the county decals and new plates to those folks, or just the decal, or how's the logistics going to work? So they won't have the county designation. You're grandfathered in as long as you have your plate issued before January 1st, 2024, as it's written. Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Senator Schallenberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, it wasn't before me. I know how this happened. Used to, in the early 80s until mid-80s, the license plates were printed. They were stamped with the county on it. You may still see some old tags that CK, and it was in big letters down the side. And when Mike Hayden was governor and I was in the legislature, that was repealed. And it was too expensive to stamp a plate for every county, and the county had all these excess plates. And so they repealed that. And Gene Shore, a state representative from Western Kansas, offered an amendment to apply a sticker because of poachers. There were Johnson County poachers that were coming out to Western Kansas, and the sticker started. And then Bill Graves got elected, and he kept Joan Finney as the Department of Motor Vehicles secretary. And at that time, there were no special license plates. There was one license plate, and she argued until she died. Well, she's still alive. She was my county treasurer. She argued the license plates were not for advertising. And so we had no specialized license plates. When she left, they started, and now we have this many. And so that's the history. But we've always, I didn't even think about that these specialized plates didn't have a place for the county. So I appreciate that. They should have counties on them. That's the history.
Further questions? Senator Reddy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to know if there's a additional cost or anything like that for the owners, or when they have to purchase new license plates. So that stays the same then?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there is no additional cost. It would just be a change in the plate when they're issued their new one, since we are grandfathering it in.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and I appreciate the history on the plates. That's good to know, and it's kind of interesting whenever we go to the city to shop or trade, we tend to look at license plates. So we see out-of-state plates, who's shopping at what stores and that, and this kind of helps with the counties too, because I'm trying to convince my Johnson County friends they're not the only ones shopping there or spending money. So there's a lot of out-of-county tags there also. But law enforcement's a big issue. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Bowers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Tyson. And I'm just going to piggyback on what you said. Working at the Chamber of Commerce years ago, we used to analyze in parking lots where people were coming from to shop, and we called Concordia the regional shopping center in north central Kansas. So it was very interesting to us to discover who was coming to town and shopping. So without this, we don't have that. So I appreciate it also.
Oh, thank you. And I always get excited when I see a Cloud County tag.
Senator, would you be open to an amendment that excluded the Coast Guard, Army, Navy, Air Force, Space Force plates?
It would be open for discussion. I'd have to think about it, Senator, but I could see why you'd want that change.
Since the state was the backer of those license plates.
Yeah. Maybe we could figure something else out. That'd be great. I would also ask the committee to consider an amendment to make sure that our default custom tag is the Ad Astra tag. I think that made it into law, but I'm not sure.
It's optional, it's in law, it is optional now. You gotta just request it. They'll ask you which plates you want when you apply.
I just want the Ad Astra to be the default. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, committee.
Further questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further proponents? Any opponents? Any neutrals? Close the hearing on Senate Bill 130. Any further business to come before the committee? Oh yeah, I forgot we have a bill I need to work. Yesterday we heard 143. Adam, can you give us a briefing on that? I'd like to work that bill today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 143 provides that a motor vehicle may be equipped with ground effect lighting, not subject to the limitations. As such, ground effect lighting is required to be neon tube lighting. The bill would essentially remove the neon tube restriction that currently exists.
And if I recall, this changes nothing else in the laws on underground lighting.
That is correct. Everything else, there's just currently a limitation that these can only apply to neon tube lighting, and it really just removes that one limitation explicitly, and that's it.
Committee, what's your pleasure with this bill? Senators? Motion's been made by Senator Schallenberg to pass out favorably, seconded by Senator Warren. I was wondering if you would consider amending that to be placed on the consent calendar since it's non-controversial. Is that okay with the second also? Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Bill's moving out. Is there any further business to come before the committee? Seeing none, we're adjourned.